Well, in Venezuela, hope of finding survivors of last week's twin earthquakes is fading, with residents combing through ruins of buildings with pickaxes or even their bare hands to try to find their loved ones. More than 1,700 people have been confirmed dead, though tens of thousands remain unaccounted for. Locals are voicing frustration over a lack of aid and coordinated government response, making the biggest challenge facing President Delcy Rodriguez, who took power following the U.S. capture of Nicolás Maduro in January. Well, we're going to talk more about this with our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, the shock of the earthquake then has quickly turned to anger. Why is this?
I think we're seeing the same scenario that we've seen many times in other countries affected by earthquakes. First of all, the shock and horror of realizing what has happened, then the expectation that the authorities will come in and help the earthquake victims and look for survivors, and then the realization that the authorities don't have the means at their disposal to do that, and anger quickly mounts. We're talking about the areas where the earthquakes took place that you can see on the map here. This is the scenario that Delcy Rodriguez, the president of Venezuela, is facing, but she has another handicap because she's taken over a country which has been riddled by years of corruption, of underinvestment and mismanagement, and also international sanctions against former President Nicolás Maduro. Remember, he was removed by the United States back on the 3rd of January this year. So Delcy Rodriguez, who is also part of the same regime, was the deputy to Nicolás Maduro, has been accused of being part of a system of corruption in Venezuela, and all that is now showing up in the fact that the authorities have been pretty absent in trying to deal with this situation. The International Crisis Group has said that basically it's a cross between non-existent or completely inadequate as far as helping the population is concerned. There are also a couple of other elements which are important to underline here. The first one is that the military is completely absent or virtually absent in trying to help the population. Remember back in 2024, at the last election when Nicolás Maduro was fraudulently re-elected in Venezuela, the military clamped down on opposition supporters and those out in the streets trying to support other candidates. This time around, the military is being accused of basically not being able to help the population. The police is even being accused of trying to hinder some organizations from helping look for survivors. Luckily for the president of Venezuela, international organizations have come in to help where the military and local politics has not helped, basically from El Salvador, Spain, Qatar, and of course from the United States. And the other problem also is that many questions are being raised about the regime. Will it allow for honest calculation of the numbers of people who have been killed, who have been disappeared or are injured? And will the regime let us journalists, do the work that we're supposed to do to try to make all of this accountable for the authorities as to why they have not been able to intervene as correctly as many people thought they should?
Well, what has been the response from the president, and what means does the government have?
Well, the regime knows that it has two choices. Either it can try to make this look good for the regime, that's to say intervene as best as possible, Delcy Rodriguez out to meet survivors, to meet the families of the bereaved, to try to show a more human side to this, even though the authorities are unable to bring in the necessary means to support everybody. Or the regime could fail as a result of not being there to help the population of Venezuela when it's most needed. It could lead to unrest and to protest movements, which would have a very bad effect on the president. If you look at an opinion poll, one of them has been published in Caracas by an organization called Meganalysis. They say only 6% of Venezuelans think that Delcy Rodriguez and the regime has been doing a good job since they took over in January this year. 94% say they haven't done enough for democracy. So this could be an occasion, if the authorities see it that way, to try to redress the situation, to pull support towards them, saying that she is now the more pragmatic leader of Venezuela. She's let the United States and international groups in there to help with the search for survivors. This is something that Nicolás Maduro would never have done in the past because he considered the United States, for example, to be using that as a Trojan horse to bring in the military to try to overthrow him. Well, now that has happened. Is she going to go the other way and say, yes, the door is open and everybody can come in and help? There is another thorn in her side, and that is the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, who has said that she wants to come back to Venezuela as a result of the earthquake to help in the rescue efforts. She's living in Panama, but she's also much more popular than Delcy Rodriguez. 3 out of 4 Venezuelans in the same opinion poll say they would rather vote for her than they would for Delcy Rodriguez.
Well, despite the US intervention to remove Maduro and then Donald Trump's claims that Venezuela's doing well, does this disaster really illustrate how little the country has changed since that capture?
Well, I think that it shows that despite the change of regime and despite the change of leader, but not the change of regime, but what Donald Trump has been saying, which is basically that Delcy Rodriguez is doing a fantastic job. To quote Donald Trump again, the people of running Venezuela are, quote, great people. When push comes to shove, it shows that not much has changed. The disaster response has not been up to par. There has not been much intervention by the military. And the United States has seen Venezuela as a protectorate. And that's raised another question as to what has happened to all this oil money from Venezuela that seems to have evaporated. $8 billion worth of oil money estimated to have been earned by exports of oil since the fall of Nicolas Maduro. Where's that money gone? There's been a very opaque response from the Americans saying that they will let us know exactly what is going to happen with that. But I think there's definitely a feeling in Venezuela that this oil money is not being given to the people to help the people survive in this situation of earthquake. And basically, the profits from that oil are still being siphoned off and given to the same people. That's to say, the regime which is in power.